Right, here we go. What is up? The sixth man. We are back. Valentine's Day has just passed, guys. Did we all have a good Valentine's Day? No? Okay, well, basketball was on, so at least we had that. We had an early tip. We had Wizards Celtics. So that was good. I'm feeling great because outside the NBA, OU's basketball team have broken into the top 10 in college basketball. All we got to do is beat that stupid team, Texas. So yeah, feeling good. We're obviously going to be covering two divisions as we normally do, and we're going to be talking about the Southeast. So we're going to head to Disneyland first, where it's not really a magical story happening right now. How's Lasky? Talk to me.
See, I feel you're doing this out of spite because usually you try to go for the best teams first. Now you just want to take the piss and make me go first. But with all that being said, there is only one word to describe the Magic season, and that's just injuries. I was saying to the guys before the call, Magic had 8 active players last night. 3 of them were centers. So we had, 5 players to cover the wings and guard positions. That includes MCW and Terrence Ross, Gary Clark, Dwayne Bacon, and Chuma Okeke, and then our 3 centers of Vooch, Birch, and Bamba. But good thing, we just signed a free agent. Chasen Randall. Of course, everyone knows Chasen Randall. Yeah.
Who? Who is that? Who he play for?
Who he play for, right? It's not even the good Randall. It's the bad Randall. I have no idea who this geezer is, but we just picked him up. And we picked him up, so we're going to have to drop someone. And unfortunately, Frank Mason III has to unfortunately be dropped. Oh, no. That is the current situation. The majority of our season has been played with 4 starters out. If any other team can say that, fair play. So I just had to get that off my chest. So the Magic are now 10-18, and quite nicely actually, the fact that we do this every 3 weeks. It's usually 10 games, and it's been 10 games since last checked with the Magic, and they've been 2-8 since then. One of the victories we spoke about a couple weeks back, which was against Chicago, but then they lost the game after that. Okay, I'm relaxed. That's all I had to say. You got anything to ask me, Alex? That's it.
I mean, for this week, loss against the Blazers, that game was relatively close. The Warriors game was also pretty close. You beat the Kings,
yeah,
and then you lose to the Suns. And in that Suns game, Booker just pulls up for 3, and then Vooch is just rebounding the ball, and he just slams it against the stanchion.
Okay,
right, but you are over 500 on something, and Steve Clifford is 7-3 on coaches' challenges this season, right? That's got to be positive for something. That's a good record. So to all the GMs out there, if you were a ref, which coach would you be most convinced by to review a play?
Greg Pop.
Yeah, Pop's got the experience, hasn't he?
Yeah. And
short, blunt answers. Yeah, that's very true.
I think Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be absolutely terrified.
I told you, he's got that killer man's face. He's just scary, man.
Especially with the mask on.
Battle Royale.
Especially him with the mask on, it's just curly hair, like slicked back. You're like, fuck, I'm a little bit worried.
He looks like a Batman villain.
He literally does.
Are you saying trade him out for R. Patterson in the new Batman? Because, that guy's refusing to work out, apparently.
Yeah, but Patterson is actually Batman. So you could have... I'd be convinced that Robert Patterson would be scared of Quinn Snyder. I'd buy that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I'd see that.
Quickly to finish up on the Magic, I'll leave on the one positive and the only positive, or the main positive throughout the whole year, which is Vooch. We'll see if he becomes an all-star. He had 2 big career games recently. He had a 43-point game against the Bulls, which was his career high, and then he had like another 42 points against the Kings. Yeah, thanks. And the good thing about the Bulls game is he scored 40+ points in a game which needed him to score 40+ points. I do, however, want to see him dominate against another elite big man. He hasn't had a signature game against one of the other top tier centers, so I do want to see that happen in the next couple of weeks. Maybe just for himself as well, but we all know it's really tricky if your teammates can't hit shots when you pass them open up threes, i.e. Gary Clark, who's shooting 25%, and I think 8% of those are open threes. So yeah, enough said about that.
And also the other positive thing is that Terrence Ross is building his trade stock way up because now he's starting and he's getting all the shots, even more.
Terence Ross has not started in over 120 games. He's just purely a bench player, but I guess that's what happens when everyone's injured.
Well, let's go from the bad to the truly horror awful. We didn't have high hopes for the Magic, but we had high hopes for this team, and this team has gone 0-3 this week, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. Jay Wild is sitting there real pissed off, and I can see why, because his team is in a whole lot of trouble. Jay Wild.
It's pretty bleak, man, and you're right. I'm pretty pissed off. Same as Magic. I hate to say that we've only won 2 of our last 8 games. In a more condensed range, as you say, we are 0-3 this week. Most impressive game of the 3 was against Dallas Mavericks. They, of course, won, and with the Trey versus Luka games, we're now down 2-1. But it was an absolutely killer game from my 3 favorite guys: John Collins, Trae Young, of course, and Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter with 23, John Collins with 33, and Trae with 25. It was a really good game. It came down to the last possession. Kevin Huerter inbounding the ball, which usually really happy about. That's a good thing. He makes good decisions. He's an underrated passer. They run a backdoor screen, Trae to John, and the screen worked. John Collins was wide open under the hoop, but Trae gets hit in the face by Willie Cauley-Stein in the elbow. And if you watch Kevin, he actually got distracted by that. He figured something was going to get called. If he actually maintained focus on the play, he could have lobbed it into John, and then that would have been the win, because we only lost by 1, and that was the final play. So look, it was a really tough loss, but it's the NBA, things are going to happen like that. Next game against Spurs, we get up 77 points in the first half against Spurs, and then once we did that, we basically threw in the towel. And Trae played half as many minutes as he did in the Mavs game. And if we're playing Trae half the amount we want to be, then we're clearly just like on to the next one. But it's really tough, man, because although we haven't got it quite as bad as the Magic with people we've lost, really key guys. We started out the season much like the Magic with undefeated record. We had a really good start because we had all of our guys. Bogdanovic, he's now down. He went out obviously early. He was walking 20 points. He's basically, he's a killer. He's a guy you want out there in crunch time. He was hitting really clutch threes, and every time he shot, I felt like it was going in. So we're missing that presence. And Hunter, after Bogdanovic went down, Hunter was excelling. He's become our 3rd best scorer on the team. We've lost him now for the next 7 to 10 weeks with a knee injury. So it means we're relying on guys like Solomon Hill. And look, no disrespect, but it's just, these guys aren't versatile. Solomon Hill's best work came from, passes he was getting off of one of the best assist men ever in Rondo and spot up threes, but there's not much else he's doing for us. So when you're swapping out people like Hunter for Solo, it's not a winning recipe, and it's not current record.
In the Mavs game, first of all, real quick, do you think it was a foul? I saw Trae throw up some fruity language. They got in trouble. We can't, not safe for TV on here. We're not going to repeat those. But do you think it was a foul? Don't be biased.
It's totally down to the discretion of the ref. It's a bang play. I think it could easily have been called. Trae is a star, so you could say, hey, if he's the one getting elbowed in the face, then that should be getting called. It's tough because the ref that should be the one to call it, probably looking at Kevin doing the 5 count to make sure they get the inbound in. So it's a tough play to call. It's hard to see. It's very unlikely that play is going to get called. As I said, honestly, I'd love to say it should have been called because it's my team. But as I said earlier, I do believe that if Kevin stayed focused on the play, he'd have seen John wide open. And John was letting him know, giving it the old, he's like wide open under the hoop. And he should have been thrown up for a lob, basically.
John Collins, let's speak about him. Now, as Bray alluded to last week, that when teams go into losses, what do we talk about? We talk about potential trades. Now, there's been speak about John Collins that the Hawks are listening to offers. And I'm going to read a couple of trade offers for you, Wildy, and just so you can finish with, do you think the Hawks are going to move them? So you've got John Collins and Tony Snell for Norman Powell and Baines, 2 first-rounders and a second-round pick. Or another one that I found was Collins, Snell, and Chris Dunn for Oladipo, Daniel House, and a first-round pick. Do you think they're going to move John Collins?
The whole John Collins thing has been going on a very long time. And when you're paying attention to something like that, where, especially when you like him, I already said that he's like one of my favorite players on the team. Everything's kind of pointing towards it. John voiced his opinions halfway through the season, saying that, hey, look, I don't think Trey's passing out the ball enough. So there was tension in the locker room about that. Trey didn't actually clap back in the locker room, and that was said, but it really affected Trey's play throughout the thing. So whether that relationship has felt a bit tainted, even though they are playing well together since that incident. Also, they were getting, you also see stuff like at the beginning of the game, they're really hyping up John and trying to build up his value as a draft asset, so that when they are opening the doors for trade assets, they can get as much for him as possible. You sort of notice things like that when somebody is on the rumor mill, that there's lots of different promos and everything for them to G them up, basically, which is smart and it's something you want to do. The idea of that Oladipo one, I don't think we can't give him up for nothing. I think he's a really good player. But it's definitely on the cards, because if John and Trey aren't clicking in the way that we think they are, then it can't be a long-term thing, because it's something that we need to build on.
Might be time to go. Well, and also going back on the other thing is that apparently the Celtics are after John Collins to add that big piece, and that's something that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. Let's continue on the trade talks, and another player that has been talked a lot about in trades is Bradley Beal. The Washington Wizards, 2-2 this week, slightly better for them. Thanks to Lambert. The Wizards, talk to me about them.
Yeah, it feels like every time we talk about the Wizards, it's a bit of a blessing that Beal is still here. So I will take that. But yeah, the Wizards have improved of late. Like you said, the 2-2 this week. They're actually 4-6 in their last 10. So nice positives. Win against the Bulls, narrow win. Zach LaVine missed a layup right at the end, which could have forced overtime, but we'll take that. And then defeats against the Raptors, and then the Knicks, in which actually Beal sat out that game. And Westbrook managed to just fall shy of a triple-double, but a typical just defeat there for the Wizards, really. And then a great win last night on Valentine's Day against the Celtics, in which, I don't know if it was the Wizards being good or the Celtics just being absolutely terrible, but we'll still take that win.
Yeah, Bill won the battle of St. Louis because Tatum had an awful game. So they win against, like you said, they win against the Bulls in a close one. Raptors, Westbrook making costly turnovers, and they just, they can never really come back. The Knicks game, a lot of D Rose really controlling that game as well. And Julius Randle showed that the Wizards don't really have an inside presence. But yeah, the Celtics win for them. Bill starts out 5 for 5. Mo Wagner brings good energy, and they're getting good production out of Rui Hachimura. So have you seen anything from the Japanese Michael Jordan?
Funnily enough, I was going to talk about him. He's been in great form of late. He obviously had a double-double against Chicago, and then a great game against the Celtics last night. In the actual 17 games that he has started for the Wizards this season, they've won 7 of them, which are all 7 of the Wizards' wins. So actually fairly good record from that perspective. And he's scored double figures in points in his last 4 games, 7 out of his last 8. Pretty decent, and he's averaging 13 points per game and 5.3 rebounds, shooting 45%. So actually, he's contributing fairly well, and you can kind of point to him as the reason why last night's performance against the Celtics, that was their fewest points allowed for an opposing team last night. The first time this season they've kept their opponents under 100 points, and his defense was definitely a huge part of that.
Let's go a bit off script with this. So earlier this week, John Wall came out and spoke about the Westbrook trade. He said that the Wizards didn't give him honesty and respect throughout the trade process, and then basically no one told him the truth. So, Matt, my question to you is, do you think Washington regrets making that trade?
Yeah. Well, I guess we saw the first showdown between Wall and Westbrook a few weeks ago, and the next actual game is between the Wizards and the Rockets. And I can't see it going any other way. Even though the Rockets have had a bit of a slide of late, I can still see that Wall will prevail over Westbrook. Westbrook's influence, he's still obviously been having an impact on the stat line, but in terms of an impact on the games, not really much. It's Bradley Beal's team. It's not that much of a duo as people would have thought it would have been. They've not combined Beal and Westbrook. It's been Beal's been driving that team, and Westbrook's just been stat padding, really.
Yeah, I think Rui probably has a better win-loss record than Westbrook at this point, because it seems like whenever Westbrook doesn't play or is playing, the Wizards, they're almost better without him.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. So,
and they gave up a pick in that trade as well. Didn't Washington have to give up a pick to bring Westbrook in, which is even crazier?
Yeah,
it's shocking as well with Westbrook, because like someone like Victor Oladipo credits his success to Westbrook, just seeing how hard he works, and you think that should really be bringing a culture, energizing the rest of their players, and I can't say I've seen the effects.
Yeah, well, like you said, the East not as deep as the West. Could they make a late push? I highly doubt it, but we will see what happens. So the Wizards went 2-2 this week. Another team which is on the rise. Really excited. Probably one of the most exciting teams. I'd probably say the best League Pass team to watch if you're on a late night binge on the NBA. And that is the Charlotte Hornets. They also went 2-2 this week, and they are 13-15 overall, which is really good for an East team. So let's give them some credit. George, House of 03. What's up, my man?
Buzz, baby. That's what's up. I am feeling good, my brother. Like you said, this week 2-2. But if we look at the last 10, they've gone 6-4. Now, the last time we spoke about them, I remember we were mentioning that there were troubles and concerns within the Hornets camp, especially with the troubles which Ball was having, and then they just turned it around just like that, it seems, and they've gone on a tear. Last time we spoke about them, they were 12th in the conference. Now we're talking about them today. They are now 6th. They've jumped up 6 places since we last spoke about them. And I need to apologize, because last time we spoke about them, I didn't, even cover half of what they were achieving back then. Back then, they were first in assists. Out of all the league, they're first in assists. Now they're still up there. They're second. They've recently been overtaken, but they are performing. And can I just throw it back, my guys? Back when we were draft week, might I say, and we were talking about this team and LaMelo Ball, and I heard comments like, "Oh, he's just a flashy passer," and
call him out. Listen, as long as it wasn't me. As long as it wasn't me.
Call him out. That guy over there.
Name and shame them.
What are you guys thinking now? That's all I'm asking. And you know what? I have to add, I'm very happy, because I feel like this was my last team to be drafted. I feel like I've drafted a Draymond Green right now.
I like that.
And they're just counting all the teams drafted.
George, you better be careful, because it might end up in a kick in the nuts.
Well,
go on, number one LaMelo hater.
I still can. That's all I'm saying.
Number one LaMelo hater. Oh, I saw him in real life. I saw him in the flesh. He's not that good. He's just flashy passes. I want to hear it from you.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're pointing at.
We've got the thing sorted out. We know who that is.
Great.
I mean, look.
It's Alex.
I'm trying to stay quiet over here, because I was wrong about them. I was very wrong.
Oh,
He's been incredibly effective. He can kind of shoot sometimes, which is cool.
It's such a backhanded compliment.
Exactly.
I mean,
He
come
still
on.
turns the
saw
ball
it at the
over a
beginning.
bunch.
We were like, what?
Who's better,
You saw
Tyler
it-
Hero or LaMelo Ball? I want to hear it.
Oh, I mean, Tyler Hero's.
He's storing.
Not this season. Not this season. He hasn't been better this season. You're absolutely right there. I will concede. I'll have some Tyler Hero points coming up later as well. But yeah, LaMelo's been really good. I was wrong. I apologise to LaMelo. He's been really good with who's their dunk? Is it Bridges?
Miles Bridges.
Yeah.
Miles
Yeah.
Bridges. Give LaMelo someone like Miles Bridges who can jump out the gym, and I that's a combination that I completely underrated because that is one of the main reasons they're a sneaky league pass team. That combo is insane.
Entertaining.
George, can we speak about Miles Bridges? So Bridges, 3 straight double-doubles for this team in 3 games out of the 4 this week. How important has he been to them?
yeah, like I mentioned before when we were speaking last week, it was mainly Hayward being that driving force. So now that Bridges has really picked up his stats now, he's really been able to take a lot of the load from Hayward in that aspect and many other players in the points and assists, which he's adding onto the team. So he's been a huge help to the overall Hornets pickup.
I'm going to shout out my player of the week. Scary Terry is on an absolute tear. Terry Rozier is averaging 36 points per game and he's shooting 59% from the field. He's going Celtic playoffs. It's like he playing Bledsoe in the playoffs again. He is on fire. So look out for him because I'm sure he's going to have some fun games coming up. But is there anything you want to say on the Hornets before we move on?
Yeah, like I mentioned, big week, massive pickup for all players, and I have to agree. He's back, baby. Scary Terry's back. I'm not sure if you saw his last play in the previous game. I can't remember who he got jumping in the air.
The Hezzy.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the
young blood. Oh my!
It's the drawback head fake and then bring it back through. It's so nice.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm really happy this week, and I'm hoping this change continues. I think the concerns, I'm really loving this team because they're growing together, and I think with that added pickup as they go forward as a team is truly beneficial. I think, as you can tell from previous discussions, I'm more of that supporter of that kind of team, fully on team, everyone contributing kind of team play, as opposed to having the superstars take the full load. So it's really good to see that, and I hope more good things in the future, you know?
Yeah, nice, man. Let's close out this division with the only team that Bro cares about, and that is where Tyler Hero has not been playing as well as LaMelo Ball, and that is the Miami Heat. But I will say this: they are 2-1 this week. They have been climbing their way back. They've won 4 out of their last 5. Bray, how you feeling about the Heat?
They finally have a better record than the Bulls, so you can all shut up. I'm right. That's what I'm going to say. They're trending in the right direction. They're kind of they're stabilizing now. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They've got Jimmy back. Who knew? Having someone who played at, we didn't play at a finals MVP level, but he had some ridiculous games in the finals. And who knew having that guy would be super important? He's really, really stabilised them and has just been the scorer that they need. In their last 10 games, they had losses to the Jazz, the Clips, and the Nugs. And I'm like, fair enough. Those are some really good teams. They just had a loss on the Wizards, which isn't great. You don't really want to lose to the Wizards. They're currently, they're last in the in the conference, so ideally not there. And they also had a loss to the Hornets, who are obviously streaking at the moment, and someone they should be looking at in the same bracket. In the playoff picture now, which is very nice. And they are only 2 games out of the 6th spot, as I've been saying all year. I see them as a top 6 team.
Yes, that's actually what I was going to ask you, Bray, because Jimmy, since our last check, was averaging 23, 9, and 9 since he came back. Heat have obviously won the last 4, won 4 out of the last 5. So you think they're going to be around the 6th seed for the playoff seedings?
Yeah, looking at the standings, the top 5 as is right now, the Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Pacers, and Celtics, and then I would have the Heat edging the Hornets into that last spot. You can disagree with that right now, the way the Hornets are playing, because they do look very good. But I think with the Heat on this upward trajectory, the other thing to consider is Jimmy's been great, but Bam is leading the team in 4 out of the 5 major categories. The only thing he doesn't lead in is steals, which Iggy leads in, and that's what Iggy does. So, he's an absolute monster. And with the tandem that they've got there, even with everyone else not playing so well, like we mentioned, Tyler Hero, 17 points in 34 minutes a game. Duncan Robinson only 12.5 points in 33 minutes a game, and Iggy, I mentioned, he's obviously good with the steals, but 4 points in 21 minutes. You need more from them, and that's what's happening this year is scoring.
Yeah, another player who's just popped out of nowhere is Max Strus.
Max Strus.
He, next person up for the Heat. Like you said, it's their culture. He's really come in, and he had a huge dunk against the Rockets where he dunked on John Wall.
Yeah,
and I was just like, oh, bro, if that was me, I'd be talking a whole lot to John Wall, because I know John Wall is always giving it when he dunks on someone. So yeah,
he was hitting shots that game as well. He made all threes and that dunk, and it was just beautiful. Big fan of Max Strus. He was undrafted, I believe, picked up by the Celtics, then waived so they could have Taco Fall. Then he was picked up by the Bulls, then waived again, and now he's been picked up by the Heat, and he's found his home.
Yeah, Miami looking slightly better. Before the Jazz, their last 3 games were decided by 7 points or fewer. So they really know how to grind it out, and that's going to pay dividends for them in the playoffs. So that concludes the Southeast Division. Take a short break, and then we're going to hit the Northwest.